What if I told you that for more than 200 years, thousands of families have enjoyed hot water without relying on the kind of water heater sitting in your basement right now? No digital controls, no gas burner, no giant electric tank quietly draining energy every hour of every day. Just a simple system built from basic materials that costs less than a family dinner at a restaurant. And according to those who still use variations of it today, it works so well that many modern homeowners overlook it completely. The strange part is that the science behind this forgotten method is not complicated. In fact, once you see how it works, you'll probably wonder why more people don't use at least part of the idea. Because hidden behind this $20 trick is a lesson about energy, efficiency, and a way of thinking that modern society has almost forgotten. And it starts with a simple question. Why do we spend money heating water all day long when we only use it for a few minutes at a time? Think about your home for a moment. Even when nobody is showering, even when nobody is washing dishes, even when everyone is asleep, your water heater is still working. It constantly fights against heat loss. It repeatedly reheats water. And it does this every day of the year. Most homeowners never notice because the system is hidden. The bills arrive. The hot water appears. Life goes on. But generations before modern utilities couldn't afford to waste energy that way. Every piece of firewood mattered. Every bit of fuel required effort. Every unnecessary expense reduced survival margins. As a result, people developed smarter ways to capture and use heat. And some of those methods were surprisingly effective. One of the most fascinating involved something almost every farm had plenty of. Sunlight. Today, solar water heating sounds like modern technology. People imagine expensive rooftop systems costing thousands of dollars. But the basic principle is ancient. Long before electric water heaters existed, people noticed a simple fact. Water left in the sun becomes warm. Dark containers become even warmer. Metal exposed to sunlight becomes hot enough to touch carefully. These observations eventually evolved into practical heating systems. Not because someone invented a revolutionary machine, but because ordinary people paid attention to nature. The Amish are often associated with this kind of practical thinking. Contrary to popular myths, Amish communities are not frozen in time. They constantly evaluate tools and technologies, but they tend to favor solutions that are simple, reparable, and independent. That mindset has preserved many useful techniques that modern households no longer consider. One of those ideas revolves around passive solar heating. The concept is beautifully straightforward. Instead of creating heat, you collect heat that already exists. Every day, the sun delivers enormous amounts of energy to the earth. More energy strikes your roof in a few hours than many households use in an entire day. Most of that energy simply goes unused. Traditional builders understood this. They designed homes, barns, and workshops to take advantage of sunlight whenever possible. South-facing walls, dark surfaces, strategic placement, simple choices that amplified natural heating. The forgotten water heating trick follows exactly the same philosophy. Work with nature, not against it. The simplest version uses a dark container filled with water and placed where it receives direct sunlight. As sunlight strikes the surface, energy is absorbed. The water temperature gradually rises. No fuel required. No electricity required. Just sunshine. Now that might sound almost too simple. And in a sense it is. But simplicity doesn't mean ineffective. Under favorable conditions, solar-heated water can become surprisingly warm. Enough for washing. Enough for cleaning. Enough to dramatically reduce the need for conventional heating. Over time, people improved the concept. Reflective surfaces were added. Insulated containers were developed. Heat-retaining materials were incorporated. Each improvement increased performance. Yet the underlying principle remained unchanged. Capture sunlight. Store heat. Use it when needed. What's fascinating is that this approach aligns perfectly with basic physics. Dark colors absorb more solar energy. Water stores heat extremely well. Insulation slows heat loss. Combine those three facts and you have the foundation of countless solar water heating systems. Nothing mysterious, just science. And unlike many modern devices, the system has almost no moving parts. That matters more than most people realize. Complex systems break. Simple systems endure. A conventional water heater contains valves, thermostats, heating elements, sensors, connections, and pressure components. Every one of those parts can fail. A passive solar setup has far fewer failure points. That's one reason versions of these systems have appeared all over the world. Different cultures discovered similar solutions independently, because the underlying physics works everywhere sunlight exists. And that's where the story becomes even more interesting. Many people assume modern technology automatically replaces older methods because older methods were inferior. But that's not always true. Sometimes older methods disappear because newer technologies are more convenient. Convenience and efficiency are not the same thing. A microwave is convenient. A pressure cooker may be more energy efficient. A disposable product may be convenient. A reparable product may last longer. History is full of trade-offs. The rise of electric water heating was one of them. Electric systems offered instant convenience. Turn a faucet. Hot water appears. No planning required. No weather considerations. No setup. The benefits were obvious. But something else happened. People stopped learning alternative methods. Skills faded. Knowledge disappeared from everyday conversation. Entire generations grew up believing hot water requires a machine. Yet, for thousands of years, humans heated water successfully without one. That realization changes your perspective. Suddenly, modern systems look less like necessities and more like options. Useful options. Excellent options in many situations. But still options. And when people realize they have options, they start asking different questions. Questions like, how much energy could I save? How much resilience could I gain? How dependent am I on infrastructure? Those questions are becoming increasingly relevant. Power outages happen. Utility costs rise. Extreme weather events occur. Many homeowners are searching for practical ways to reduce vulnerability, not by abandoning modern life, but by adding backup systems. That's where forgotten ideas become valuable. A passive solar water heating setup doesn't have to replace your existing system. It can complement it. Preheated water entering a conventional heater requires less additional energy. That means lower operating costs, less strain on equipment, potentially longer service life. The concept scales beautifully. Even small improvements can produce meaningful results. And because the science is straightforward, experimentation becomes accessible. You don't need a degree in engineering to understand sunlight warming water. You can observe it yourself. A dark garden hose left in the sun demonstrates the principle. A black container warming during the afternoon demonstrates the principle. Nature provides the evidence every day. The real challenge is remembering to look. Modern life encourages dependence on invisible systems. Flip a switch, push a button, open a tap. The underlying mechanisms remain hidden. Convenience is wonderful, but it sometimes disconnects us from the physical realities around us. The Amish approach often moves in the opposite direction. Observe first, understand first, then choose tools accordingly. That philosophy has preserved remarkable practical knowledge. Knowledge that isn't necessarily revolutionary, but often surprisingly effective. And perhaps that's the biggest lesson hidden inside this story. The $20 trick isn't really about saving money. It's about seeing opportunities others overlook. When most people look at sunlight, they see weather. When a practical thinker looks at sunlight, they see energy. When most people see a dark container sitting outside, they see an object. When a practical thinker sees it, they see thermal storage. The difference isn't intelligence. It's perspective. And perspective changes everything. Throughout history, some of humanity's greatest breakthroughs came from noticing ordinary things. A falling apple, steam escaping a kettle, water flowing downhill. Simple observations leading to powerful ideas. The forgotten water heating method belongs to that tradition. An everyday phenomenon transformed into a useful tool. No secret society. No conspiracy. No hidden technology. just generations of accumulated practical knowledge. And in many ways, that's even more impressive, because it reminds us that innovation isn't always about creating something new. Sometimes innovation means rediscovering something old, something effective, something simple, something that has quietly worked for centuries. Today, millions of people spend enormous amounts of money chasing efficiency. Smart thermostats, energy monitors, high-tech appliances. Some of those tools are genuinely useful, but occasionally the biggest gains come from understanding fundamentals. Heat rises. Dark surfaces absorb energy. Water stores thermal mass. Insulation reduces loss. These principles were true 200 years ago. They're true today, and they'll still be true 200 years from now. Technology changes. Physics doesn't. That's why forgotten systems continue attracting attention. Not because they're magical, not because they're banned, but because they're built on realities that never go out of style. The Amish understood that. Farmers understood that. Homesteaders understood that. And increasingly, modern homeowners are beginning to rediscover it as well. Not as a replacement for modern life, but as a complement to it. A reminder that resilience often begins with simplicity. The next time sunlight pours across your roof, consider what you're looking at. You're watching an energy source powerful enough to warm water, heat structures, grow food, and sustain life itself. For centuries, people learned how to capture a small piece of that energy using little more than creativity and observation. Some of those methods faded from public awareness. Others survived quietly in communities that valued practicality over trends. And every now and then, one of those forgotten ideas resurfaces. Not because it's new, but because it's useful. The $20 water heating trick is one of those ideas. A simple reminder that some of the most powerful solutions don't come from complicated machines. They come from understanding how the world already works. And once you understand that, you start seeing possibilities everywhere. If you enjoy uncovering forgotten systems, practical old-world knowledge, and simple solutions that still make sense today, subscribe and turn on notifications. Every week we explore hidden techniques, historical innovations, and overlooked ideas that continue to surprise modern audiences. Because sometimes the future isn't found by looking ahead. Sometimes it's found by rediscovering what we left behind.